Hello, everybody. It's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research. As usual, catching up with my partner in crime on all things happening SAP, Martin Fischer. Hey, Martin, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing, Holger?
Oh, very good. I had the pleasure to travel back from the old continent to the new continent yesterday, 2 days ago. So it's a little bit jet lag, but otherwise, well. How about you? Have done your summer vacation already?
No, I'm starting in 10 days. Going to
Where are you going?
northern Italy, Lago di Caldonazzo.
Caldonazzo? Where is that? I should know. I grew up in northern Italy.
Actually, not far away from Lago di Garda, just a
Oh.
bit more east. And it's way smaller.
Well, that's a tip for anybody, right? Avoid the big lakes. Lago di Garda, you find all the Germans, Lake Como, all the Americans, Maggiore is a mix. But the little ones like Lago di Seo, which is the fourth big lake, but a small one, that's where you find authentic. Or Lago di Carnazzo, Carnazzo, right? It's good. Like there's
Caldonazzo.
Caldonazzo, excellent. All right, perfect. That's where you find Martin in vacation, right? My vacation was also going to Italy. Son was on a study trip. We went to Florence chasing heat records in Florence. So heat record chasing thing in Frankfurt, Bingen, 2 times in Florence, improved that, and then Lucerne even. And then winter came, right? But hey, we're not here to talk about the weather, right? We're here to talk about SAP. Big events happened. We haven't talked since Sapphire, right? What was your impression of Sapphire?
We haven't talked since March, actually. My impression of Sapphire, well delivered keynotes in general. Also, they gave a glimpse on what SAP will do on the AI topic, but they didn't reveal too much. I'd like the cloud application programming model demo Jürgen Müller showed in his keynote. Good to see. And in the meantime, I also saw, I think even probably the same demo, but with even better results at the UI5Con or Recap, 2 of the community conferences happening in July in St. Leon Road next to Waldorf. But the other thing was a bit blurry, I would say. So, of course, they are working on it, but yeah.
Right. So from my perspective, a significant improvement over last year where there was almost nothing being announced, right? So significantly more things happening. I didn't make it to Orlando. I made it to Barcelona, which was nice for Barcelona. Unfortunately, it was all pretty much a repeat, which I found disappointing. SAP being a European company. I mean, of course, if the 2 Sapphires are so close to each other, I totally understand as a former product developer, you don't have all the great news and so on. But I would have seen a little more partitioning. I would have thought it would have been smarter for SAP to keep more of the sustainability announcements for Barcelona, because the Americans don't care so much for that like Europeans. So I think that would have fitted better. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. It was pretty much the same keynote, the same announcements, and so on. So, but hey, I didn't make it to Rio. I think where the third one was. I'm not sure if that was the same thing again. But a significant improvement, more things to talk about from SAP than there was a year before, where I think they were surprised that they wanted to or could do a Sapphire to a certain point. But
so the setting in Barcelona was more or less a private or
no. It was a conference. I think there was like 6,000 people or so. They had a really good, I think the best SAP demonstration store boot show they had. Right, they had the creation of ice cream as a really huge like basketball field size walking store, bringing all the SAP products in from early signals to products to manufacturing. To purchasing, to sustainability, and then at the end you got your custom ordered ice cream from a number of selections, which I think was the best, most tangible, holistic demo I've seen from SAP. So compliments for that. I don't know if that was also in Orlando. I think I was told it was in Orlando as well, but so that was well done, because SAP, like all suite vendors, always struggles to show the benefits of everything, nuts to nuts. Everything gets siloed, right, in single things. So that was really. Yeah, probably the best integrated SAP demo I've seen at Sapphire. And I've been to 50 or so. So maybe I forgot some, so apologies if somebody listens and say, hey, that was a great one in 93, 97, 21 or whatever. Remind me of it. I'm not saying that, but for recent times, definitely the most impressive one from that perspective.
Okay, sounds very interesting. So as far for my understanding, it was invitation only for customers. You couldn't just go and buy a ticket for that.
Oh, really? Good. You know more than me. I didn't ask how customers got there. I got there.
You got your invitation.
Job, so I don't have to look for. But there was a decent amount of people. I don't know how they got the invitation only. Yeah. But the interesting conversation to me was flying there. By chance, was next in the Lufthansa lounge next to a CIO of a large SAP customer, and she said, "Yeah, I'm not going there. I'm sending my team there. There's nothing interesting happening." So. That's, of course, a potential warning sign of a large brand name SAP customer in Germany, home country, says, I'm not excited about Sapphire, right? And the big problem in the background is, of course, the 2027 deadline. And we all know large companies need 5 years. And we're kind of like in the Mexican standoff right now, right? Where two people hold the pistol to their heads. Their mutual destruction is guaranteed, or they find a reasonable solution. Of course, we hope a reasonable solution will be found. Typically, with end of support deadlines of SAP gives up and charges maybe a little more. We'll see how that goes. But I keep telling SAP there needs to be a roadmap. So even the customers who want to move, who have to move, see that's how they can move and see things coming out in the next 3-4 years, and they can align their rollout schedule to what is coming out from SAP.
Yeah, and I think this whole end of maintenance topic for Business Suite should not only be seen in the eyes of the core ERP system. I think the bigger issue I hear from discussions with customer are actually the industry solutions, which some of them are not supported or will move to the industry cloud. But as far as I hear from different customer conversations, many of that industry solutions, the new ones, are not ready yet, meaning customers who use current industry solutions miss key functionality in the new ones, and the roadmaps are not reliable, or they are just saying something like on the long term we are working on that. And I think that's even the bigger issue, because that for some customers that's also the one reason why they hold back the whole S4 story in the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's a very good point, great point, and it's probably might be the reason for non-telling, because the upfront customers would, you forced me to upgrade, and I don't have an answer when my industry solution is coming. But I think the clarity is going to be important, and which industry solutions will SAP be able to provide and which ones not, right? 1 year ago, the big takeaway for me from Sapphire was Christian Klein says, we can't build everything ourselves, right? They had this deal with the financial service capabilities where partners will build things, right? It got very quiet from that perspective. To a certain point, not surprising, because you're in the middle of a platform shift, you first have to get the platform ready, right? Which we'll talk about later, which is Jürgen Müller's work. So partners can build something which is mature, scalable, repeatable, industry grade, SAP grade, and so on, right? So that's the key challenge behind there. So kind of like SAP is playing on time and is hoping to get away with it, right? We'll talk about more forcing customers to upgrade sooner than later, right? So
yeah, just as one example about the industry solution topic and how complicated it can be is the whole healthcare industry solution, which is mainly used by hospitals in actually, I think mostly in the German-speaking region. There, SAP announced last fall that they will not build a successor for the current integrated industry solution into ERP. And I mean, of course, that questions the whole S4 topic for all that hospitals right now, right. Because they found, I think, if I got it right, 2 partners who will build these solutions for Germany and Switzerland and Austria. So, of course, you need 3 versions for these 3 countries, and I can, from a business point of view, understand SAP that they say it doesn't make sense to build that solution for us. Yep. But they start now in 2023 developing that successor of the SAP built solution, then there are so many, I think, also legal topics still under discussion. Where does the IP go and all that kind of stuff? That's the 2027 deadline for that customers is not doable, I think. Cannot imagine that.
Yeah, no, that's a great data point. I missed that. And on the one side, kudos for SAP to be gutsy and saying we can't do it all. This is something we won't do, and good to find a solution. Tough for the hospitals and the hospital sector. Hey, there's a key competitor of Oracle. I gave it away, of SAP. It's bought a healthcare company, right? So maybe some people are thinking happily, but I'm not sure how much Cerner is over in Europe, right? So,
I just read an article, a piece on that one, and they seem to be for certain parts of the processes they are supporting. Is Cerner a big topic? And I think one of the challenges they are seeing now with the new solution is the integration to that solution.
Yeah, that was breaking news, right? SAP hands over the future of the healthcare version to Oracle. Not that they have not partnered before, right? But I don't think they will partner on the application side. But then, I mean, interesting things happen there, right? I mean, Microsoft and Oracle, arch enemies in the past, working very closely together. And hey, it's 2023, and you can provision an Oracle database from the Azure console. So hey, power of customers, good for them. We'll see what comes out of that. But I think the vertical part is the big challenge for SAP. Not all the verticals will be there in 2027, but the sooner they tell customers, the better it will be. I think alternative solution can be found. Customers can move on. They can say, I use SAP for the core, but I will build some vertical stuff. Maybe I have to use BTP for that. It doesn't have to be lost for SAP necessarily. Right, nothing on Sapphire. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one last sentence on that. Yeah, I agree. It needs not to be SAP who builds all that. But I think also that opens a bit more the approach, the buying approach of the customers to rather go best of breed instead of the suite solution stuff for the future. So I think there will be more competition in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point for something to think about. Can the suite last? Right, and one of the concerns I have conceptually, forget about SAP for a moment, is business processes are innovating and changing so fast with the cloud. Is can someone like an SAP, an Oracle, Workday, we can go down the list, even build these large suites again, or have to they focus on the most reusable things in finance, HR, CRM, if you want, purchasing, manufacturing, and leave other stuff to other people. And then, of course, they have what I call the EAP, the Enterprise Application Platform, the PaaS of a SaaS vendor, right? Where you say, look, we're in the same framework, the same sign-on, the same secure way, you have access to all the data. So that will be very interesting how that void's going to be filled, right? But one way, of course, if you don't have enough developers, which again, quoting Christian Klein from Sapphire 2022, SAP doesn't have enough of them, well, partners can also build on SAP BTP, which is their EAP. Cool. Shall we move on to earnings next?
Yeah, let's go to earnings. I think there's a topic still on our list which needs a bit more time.
Let's we're 12 minutes in. Let's move to earnings, right? Yeah.
I didn't re-listen to our last episode, but I'm sure that we also talked about earnings, and I just had a quick look on the numbers again. I think SAP did got the break even and really is now in the cloud business or the subscription based licensing model. You see all the software licenses revenues are going down significantly, I think by 20% or something like that on a yearly base. There's still a huge revenue increase on the S4HANA side. That's doesn't speak for me that that's a superior product. To be honest, that's more or less the pressure which is getting harder, bigger for the customers. And in the end you see the recurring revenue increasing over time. So
I mean, SAP is transforming, moving to subscription-based services, right? It's great they had the landmark. Slowed down a little bit. They were behind on S4HANA numbers, right? So they had to remanage some expectations there. Yeah, it shows how much the challenge is real of convincing customers to move to S/4HANA, right? Because at the core, the value proposition, why should I do this, right? And everybody in the SAP ecosystem remembers how customers jump to R3, right? So from R2 to R3, right? Not on the mainframe, not an expensive platform, not on a global platform at the time. I give each country their own R3 system and they can figure out how to implement themselves, and then we roll it somewhere up. Lots of issues with that too, but it was a no-brainer, right? Client server was significantly cheaper to run. And the cloud actually has more differentiators from that perspective than if you think mainframe to client server for to on-premise to the cloud. The problem is that they have not built in capabilities which the cloud only can provide. Yeah, and that's more like a lift and shift of the same functionality. So it's hard for customers to justify. And then add, of course, of the traditional customer base in Europe who is cloud skeptic as best. So that doesn't make it easy to get those S/4HANA numbers. I mean, it's interesting to see the Rise and Grow initiative, what they're doing. I read between the leaf lines that with Grow, SAP was trying to get more logos. You get more logos when you go to SMBs and kind of like quiet the number adoption thing there because they have lots of SMB customers. So it makes sense that they have an SMB part. But it looks like they've not been able to convince those SMBs in the large numbers they kind of like wanted to manage either, right? So that's an overall challenge, no question about it. Yep.
Yeah, just one remark on the cloud capabilities. Yeah, I agree with you. Of course, especially the German-speaking market, I think is still very skeptical about all.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You know what you mean. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's already late here in Germany. Sorry for that.
No worries.
Yeah, but on the other hand, many of the big customers are using other SaaS solutions from other vendors. And so I think it's too easy to say all the SAP customers just don't like cloud, or SAP customers don't like SAP cloud and go for the others. I think one main reason for that behavior of the customers. And I read a very good post on, actually it was I think on his own platform, but I saw it on LinkedIn by Thomas Otter. You know him for sure. Who said, SAP bought a lot of cloud knowledge, but they made the transformation into SAP and didn't pick the knowledge and the kind of spirit and the methodology those companies use to build their products, but they made them more the ERP company, and so they lost kind of that cloud spirit which those customers have. And on the other hand, another reason for sure is that, and I think also from a business and cost perspective, that it makes definitely sense that you have one code line for public cloud, S/4HANA public cloud and private cloud, but that I think also limits somehow the capabilities and the possibilities to make S/4HANA public cloud a real an application which benefits from all the cloud advantages you could have.
Yeah, good, great point. I mean, and I agree. Like, if you haven't read the piece from Thomas, who is a former colleague as an SAP colleague, like I used to work at SAP, look up my LinkedIn, who's also a former colleague because he used to be an industry analyst. He was the Gartner lead analyst. Very good, hard-hitting points. I think the key thing, to be fair, however, to SAP is that the acquisitions had specialty knowledge in certain areas. They never built the complete suite. The discussion with the customer is always, oh, you have something which hurts in HR, let's do success factors. Oh, you have something which hurts in supply chain management, or that SAP acquired somebody there, but then there was a cloud solution. So the point solution thing is something companies have been doing in the past. Moving their whole automation to the cloud, that is something for large parts of the world which is totally new, right? So except for the US and now coming Asia, Europe has largely not adopted this. But no call, no talk these days without AI, right? So we have to talk about the AI topic. There's no question about that. And the irony is that will, in my view, probably help SAP, even with the SAP customers in Germany or in Europe who are cloud skeptics, like you said before, because they can't buy the NVIDIA machines to run all that AI, which needs to run if they really want to do that, right? So to a certain point, the whole AI trend is something which is not a challenge for SAP, is actually helping SAP, because from a hardware perspective, customers don't want to do that. And quick segue, right? I mean, I remember at an AWS summit in Berlin, talking to SAP customers who were totally clear that they don't want to do cloud, but for IoT, because they didn't know how to scale, they would do cloud, no question, right? And then I was saying, like, what if there's customer or people information on IoT, then you have the same issues and so on. Yeah, but I cannot go to the board and say I need X millions to build for IoT because I don't know many things at me. Luckily, all these customers didn't do too much because IoT has gotten a little quiet, right? So the lesson learned was also not there that if IoT goes in the cloud, the rest has to go on the cloud. But with AI, there's no question. So I think this will help SAP in S/4HANA adoption ultimately, that people realize I cannot be left behind from this transformative power that AI brings me, right? The question, of course, is how SAP provides that. So we'll see how that goes. Yep.
Yeah, so far we see more partnership announcements. A big announcement with partnering with, first of all, Azure, and then in this regards, OpenAI. Then there was an announcement of a Google partnership and even IBM Watson. And now I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, they announced that they invested via their venture capital kind of subsidiary, Sapphire Venture, I think, into 3 AI companies. So it's interesting.
Alex Alpha is the one I remember, right? Interesting to have a European player in that space. So yeah, let 1,000 flowers bloom, right? I mean, it's the right strategy for SAP with a diverse installed base. That's like they have to support the multiple clouds. They have to support multiple AI infrastructures. No question about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a bit wondering what happened to all the AI stuff they did in the past. Some of you might remember Leonardo, for example.
Yes.
It seems to be all gone. At least what I saw on slides I checked or whatever. So there was no clear statement from SAP towards that. That is more or less my assumption that it's all more or less gone.
So it was the old way of doing AI, right? So it was give me your data. I have some smart people figuring out what it can do. We train this in the cloud because it's cheaper, and then we have a model, and then we take it back, and then we try it out, and it took us a few days, a few weeks, a few months. By the way, your data moved on. That's the old way how you would do analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, or if you want AI, 15, 20 years ago, right? So, and that's not the way where it has to be on the real data and so on, right? So where that is happening. So that's requires a rethinking, requires a different architecture. SAP has to find a way to get their customers' data available for them or for them, for SAP to build their applications. And that leads us to something which is the thing which shouldn't be said, right? Which is big data, which is the only way to store that data. You could call it lakehouse today, which is the minimal part. So the big question is, when will SAP offer a lakehouse, which of course is anemic to one of the founders, to Hasse Plattner, who wants to have everything in memory. So we'll see when the realization there is that there's no way, and it's better for SAP to participate on building the data foundation, because they are the system of record for this, to build next generation applications in the cloud, right? And the interesting thing, we talk about SAP here. Salesforce has done this actually in a very interesting way about a year ago. So the blueprint for how to have an architectural future as a legacy vendor, and I count Salesforce even as legacy vendor too, because they're an old 20-plus-year-old cloud platform. They had to build their own cloud, but they found a way to move forward, and I'm pretty bullish on that. So easy for SAP to read, SAP is easy for SAP to utilize, and basically I think SAP will have to do something same or similar. Which leads us to the next topic, right? Which is like the big preview, like Sapphire in the first half year, TechEd in the second half of the year. Guts to SAP, right, for moving it for the first time to another place inside of Europe or North America.
No, it used to be in 3 places before the pandemic, right, where we had always India, Europe, and the States. So meaning most of the time.
I remember even Japan, fair enough. But hey, only one Sapphire in person, and it's going to be in all places in the Mecca of Silicon Valley of India, in Bangalore. So, yeah, interesting. So about
No, I mean,
about 100,000 SAP developers who are in Bangalore across SAP and the partners, right? Obviously located there. I'm not sure if they're all in Bangalore. Maybe it's 50,000. Only 50,000 attendees don't have to travel to attend this event. Kind of like sustainability message in there. So maybe that's the whole idea.
Maybe it's all about training, because I'm quite sure there are a lot of service providers, all this integration providers are there, and also SAP has big labs there, and of course the biggest developer force in the SAP ecosystem is there. And I'm absolutely, to make it very clear, absolutely not questioning that there is a need for an in-person event like TechEd in India. But for me, it's very disappointing that we don't have a Europe event, and we also don't have an American event. And last year there was a very small in-person event in Vegas compared to the earlier TechEds. So you could count that in, at least in my opinion, only half, because for Europe it will be 5 years break if there is a TechEd next year in Europe, which we all don't know yet, and that's I think an issue for the whole networking opportunities customers, partners, and SAP developers have. And actually, I'm worried the most about the SAP developers, because they are usually not going to any other conferences, because there are also some travel restriction in place within SAP, I think. So I think they will rarely meet any customers, or they rarely met any customers for 5 years in a row, and that. I think leads to a bigger ivory tower in the end, because
definitely some risk there. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. So nothing beats customer interaction. The question is developer consultant interaction, which matters as well, right? So I think the Sapphires have given some of that, but we don't see the same thing happening for the technical developers and the BTP side, right? So, which I think will be a good thing. So we'll see what the North American, European TechEd communities will say with that, it being virtual. Everybody's saying, hey, it's virtual, I save some time. We have to do some things. So it will be good for SAP to listen to that. I mean, as much as I applaud the bravado of putting something into Bangalore, no question about that, or into India, or outside of Europe and North America, I think, like you said, it's going to be important to give enough in-person time for these other communities, which are important for SAP to succeed.
There was a kind of a shitstorm is maybe a bit too much, but there were the voices were loud, and people addressing that in the community. There was even a petition set up in the internet. I think it got 500 something of signers. I didn't follow it to the end, but so it definitely got some feedback in the community. I was a bit surprised that it's that loud, actually. So I mean, for me, but I fully agree. And for me personally, it also doesn't make sense to fly to India for the conference, because I probably will not meet many customers there. My rather Central Europe focused network and the people I would like to meet and talk to will also be not there. And as for my experience, you also don't meet the European product managers from SAP there. And that's actually the ones I usually know, because they are not far away from my place. And therefore, it doesn't make sense to fly to India for a 2 days conference in the end.
Well, you can make it more, right? India is a great place to visit, but certainly no. If you don't have the Indian connection, it doesn't make sense. And it's kind of like critical for SAP to have a strong TechEd BTP showing, because everything's built in BTP. And for all the cracks we were talking about, verticals not being built, functionality might be missing, functionality might not be fitting. BTP is the answer. It's the enterprise application EAP platform of SAP. So it's super critical for being ready for that and working on that. So I agree. It's important for SAP to listen. Good to listen to the petition, whatever the community is saying there, and it will be good for SAP to carefully look and listen and study that. Yeah. But hey, stay tuned. Never a dull moment with SAP.
Yeah, well, maybe they surprise us in a positive sense. We will see.
Exactly. Never count that out. Right? Never give SAP not the chance, or any vendor that's said to positively surprise us. What did we miss? Did we oversee anything? Did we miss anything? Martin, from your perspective?
One press release, I think, which got some attention during the last week. I think we should cover that. Don't know if it was also a topic in the US. I at least saw that there is also an English version. So maybe I will explain in a few words what I'm talking about. There was a press release published by DSHE, addressing some concerns they have.
I think they were very modern. It was a blog post, right? I think it was a blog post, right? So
no, it was a press release. And
okay, take it back. You know better.
And it got a wide coverage within the German-speaking media. Don't know about the English-speaking ones, but also SAP-related, and even Heise, which is not really known for covering SAP topics, published a piece on it. And actually what SAP stated there, and they were actually referencing to the earning call, and there Christian Klein made a statement that certain innovations will only be available for cloud customer, more specifically for RISE and GROW customers, so not for customers who run for example, S/4HANA on a hyperscaler infrastructure. So that means innovation. He actually mentioned two topics, all the AI stuff, which is hopefully coming up, and all the sustainability topics will not be available for on-prem customers and not RISE and GROW customers, which is, bold decision, I would say.
And I think they've thrown some Signavio as well, right? In the past, at least, right? So I'm not sure how well that's available for on-premises, right? Yeah, I mean, difficult situation, right? For the first time, maintenance-paying customers are not getting new features, functionalities, capabilities. On the flip side, I think SAP has a case of saying this can only live in the cloud. You have to be in the cloud for that, and it has to be maintained potentially by them. This is why the privately hosted ones, it's funny, right? SAP calls someone who's running on a hyperscaler on premise, right? Who does that? But fine. Those can't manage by themselves, right? So why would you do that in a world that's chasing cloud? But there's another topic story, but a Schmankerl, as you say in Germany, funny thing to laugh about.
Yeah, if that infrastructure is that system is running on the same hyperscaler infrastructure, but you have a different contract, meaning RISE or GROW, then it's cloud. That's but revenue recognition wise, I don't know how that makes sense, right? But it's a different story, different problem. Long conversation. I mean, and like I said before, right, for AI, it's going to be really hard to run on premise, right, and buy those machines, have those machines. So customers have to think about what they're fighting here for. For Signavio, I think you have a better chance to say that because the hardware demand for that shouldn't be too big, too large, right? So that could be a case. And the third thing was that they're keeping the sustainability. That's a little harder to justify, I think, because it doesn't require the system things there. I mean, you can argue for benchmarking and so on. So the discussion will be between SAP customers, their user groups, and SAP is like, why? And if you do this, right, there was a discussion also why there's a 30% value for a premium package, right? Is that the value that you want to have, right? So, and the whole sustainability part is a challenge because it only speaks to its European customer base. Christian Klein talks about the Green Ledger. We don't have a date for the Green Ledger to come, right? So the key part of that sustainability offering is not out yet there. So I think it's been as long as software companies have been around that they have tied the next generation some exclusive features for that.
in this case, I think SAP has a fair chance to say it has to be in the cloud for the AI capabilities. With the other ones, I think it's back to customers to argue, maybe it shouldn't, right? Maybe it doesn't. And it will be a negotiation, a discussion, which will be interesting to watch. So let's get some popcorn for that.
Yeah. I'm also, I'm actually, to be honest, I was a bit shocked when I heard all that, because I think, I mean, 15 years back, I would have said SAP has the market position to pressure their customers in that way. But even then, you for sure remember the whole enterprise support story back then, which was a quite similar approach. And in the end, there was a CEO, Leo Apotheker, who need to go in the end because the customers didn't accept it in the end. Yep. It reminds me a bit to that story, and I'm also, I raised already the topic with best of breed earlier. I'm also quite sure that customers are looking into the competition, and I think, at least in my regards, there are more alternatives to SAP products than there were 15 years back.
Fair point, fair comment. Yeah, so that's the balance SAP has to strike, right? Apart from technical necessities, there's like how much of a carrot they put there, which makes customers think, so much pain you have to go through that carrot. Is a new implementation for me, and then I could open this up and look for other people and at least pressure SAP commercially, right? From that perspective, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully the SAP board has factored in all those different ramifications and then driving a strategy like this. And yeah, it's always hard when you, for the first time, hear no. It's pretty much the first time SAP customers hear, well, we can't build everything for your maintenance into these releases anymore. And it's going to be interesting how the discussion is going to end up for the sustainability, functionality, and for Signavio, right? How it's going to end up. It's going to be very interesting, something to see for the whole fall from that perspective. And potentially they can pressure SAP successfully enough. SAP can pressure them successfully enough to get some adoption. I doubt it, but hey, if I knew the future, I would play the lottery.
yeah, for sure. But you're an analyst. You're paid for knowing the future, don't you?
Yeah, but this is the free call, so I'm not going to. No, I think it's not enough, right? Because we see the movement on happening, right? I mean, customers know, and I think the AI situation helps customers and helps SAP to a certain point to understand the cloud is unavoidable. Now, the question is, when can I make the move? When do I have to make the move? And one thing is very clear. If you master AI in a successful way, what generative AI can do right now, think about customer service situations, talking to customers in a more scalable, better way, call centers, massive changes there. You can look at HR by understanding like the employee handbook and similar things. It's only internal, so not so much leverage, but certainly also freeing up costs. There's many things. So the big prize is going to be when you can run generative AI things on strategies, right? On not just the overall strategy, the strategic scorecard, but on individual sales, procurement, purchasing strategies. And that opens all up for software agents doing the work and humans only supervising it, or humans not having to do all the work. And who gets that right can definitely disrupt their markets, right? So we often talk about digital transformation and digital disruption for a long time. AI is really that power, if done right, which can significantly change that, right? So, and that realization will have to come to enterprise. It's very present in North America. It's very present in Asia, right? Today, Disney formed a task group to figure out how AI changes Disney, right? Okay, generating cartoons and so on, but on the creative side. So it's going to be interesting what comes out there. So I think it's transforming every part, and it requires a home in the cloud because the cloud offers the elasticity, the infinite compute to run these processes, right? It can't be done on premise. So I think even the most security conscious, data residency worried CIO doesn't have a chance when the board and the whole company needs to move and needs to survive. So I predict we'll have the Uber moment, right? So the taxi company and Uber comes to town, and all of a sudden they need an app to compete, right? Who can build an app for us? Who has someone who can build this and so on? And you need to have it yesterday, not tomorrow. I think the Uber moment on the AI side will come as well, and it's not going to be clement. or gnädig, whatever, Clement, not going to have much mercy with those who come too late because the disruption processes and the adoption process are going so much faster. So, hey, you put me on the soapbox. I'm speaking way too long. But yeah, that's how I see it, right? So from an AI perspective, I'm pretty much of SAP for sustainability and for Signavio, not so much, to be fair, I don't know Signavio in all the detail, how much CPU it consumes, how much value a customer can have on Signavio, but traditionally, SAP customers are oversized. Most of the time, the machines are idling unless they're doing a financial close and so on. So if you can set up Signavio in a way saying, hey, if I have idle capacity of 20%, I give 5% to Signavio to do some process mining. Not a bad thing to have some value, right? And it could be an interesting way also, and SAP could use it to its advantage, to use something like Signavio to figure out how to upgrade best to the cloud, right? So, Martin, let me run some Signavio there, and I set up an instance for you on the cloud for a certain domain area because I look at your processes and I know what you're running custom or not custom there, right? Or if you look into it, like what are the custom codes which you haven't used in a year, maybe we don't have to port that to the cloud, right? So that's interesting things from an SAP upgrade perspective possible. Yeah.
That would be a different approach to show the customers the benefits and not forcing them. And that's actually the point I'm questioning somehow.
It's always a better way to show the benefit. We know that, right? So we know that, no question about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite sure. And so the annual conference, DSHE Jahreskongress is somehow just around the corner. It's starting at mid of September, I think the 19th or something like that. It will be very interesting how the overall atmosphere.
It's a big one. It's going to be interesting who's going to draw the short straw to show up there, right? Because you have an SAP board member to speak there.
So Christian Klein wasn't there last year. He did only a video call and got already bad feedback on that. And that
I remember,
in that video call, he also did a statement which was not well received at DSHE. So answering their questions for their kind of requirements, answering like it's not Christmas today wasn't well received.
Yeah. So, but look, I mean, SAP customers deep down know that SAP cannot do all the things they've done in the past.
No,
so
of course.
The question is like which things they will support in the future and do in the future, and how much influence can I have on that as a customer? That's an important thing to learn and understand. Yeah, we'll see how quickly they learn.
I mean, what I fully agree on, and there are some customers in Germany which think things are still the same as 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not on that page, and I definitely see an advantage in cloud adoption. And to a certain point, my point is just shouldn't it be the better way to convince customers by superior products in the end? And I have my doubts right now if that, bet.
Yeah, well, the superior product is there. It's just gated to the cloud. That's the carrot, right? The carrot has been there.
We don't know
upgrades all the time. Sorry?
We somehow don't know the product yet, at least not for all the innovation pack, which is
fair enough.
In cloud. And I don't see a main difference between running S/4HANA in a RISE setup and on-prem from a feature software point of view. It's the same thing. Just different infrastructure, and if you know somehow the ABAP server architecture, it's not that scalable that you can run it in whatever any Kubernetes container setup where you can save a lot of money because the system architecture does not support that.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. This is why it's important, again, back to TechEds and so on, how to build cloud-ready SAP applications, which can take advantage of the cloud, which you can't do with the traditional ABAP, what's the name of it, update task, right, architecture, which lies behind there, right? So, but now we're getting way too technical. Perfect. All right. I think we have a good time here. We're short of the 45-minute mark. Give people some time so we don't burn the full hour. Anything important we missed?
No, I don't think so. I just got some listener feedback. So from Coffee Corner Radio podcast, we should do it more often again. It's rather me, to be honest.
We skipped a quarter. Will be better. We'll promise.
Yeah, we try. We will try.
And if you missed something, please provide the comments on different social media pieces. We're listening. Martin is definitely reading them.
Yeah, for sure. Approach us also with topic suggestions for our next conversation, or even different topics for Coffee Corner Radio podcast. I'm sure I hope at least that I will manage to provide more content for you.
Perfect.
Well,
that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Martin. My thanks goes to you. You're much closer to the things than I'm the lofty industry analyst area. So I think it's a great combination here. I really appreciate your time and insight. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned. We'll promise to make a Q4 one, right, Martin?
Yeah, for sure. After Take-It, probably.
After Take-It. That's a good mark. Okay, perfect.
Or just after the Jahreskongress, we don't know what happens there.
Maybe you have to do a special edition. Who knows, right? Stay tuned. Create some anxiety. We're definitely not going to gate this to a cloud or whatever different technology. So stay tuned. As long as X or Twitter runs, right? We made a platform change, right? We went from Twitter to X, right? Amazing, right? Thanks to backward compatibility APIs. We didn't ask for it, but we're still alive there, right? So, perfect. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy.
Yeah, stay healthy. Bye.